That's good.
Yeah.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. We'll get started here. We have all 7 of us. Brian, you want to lead us in the pledge of allegiance, sign, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, Brian.
Gonna start saying.
I'm gonna skip Deb's dinner for now. No open forum tonight. I take a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
Thanks, Shirley. Thanks, Deb. All in favor? 7-0. Recognition.
First up is for Mrs. Suzanne Sprinkle, and she had some honored guests here that I'm gonna let them, but come on up, Mrs. Shrum, and then other folks are here to also present for them.
I think you might just be up front for a little bit, man.
Hello,
Mike Ryder.
nice to meet you. I'm going to let Mike do the majority of the speaking here because he knows more about the history of being a state VFW Teacher of the Year. But when I read the description of it and it talks about civic engagement and responsibility, I thought that Susie's a perfect candidate. I can't think of a more committed teacher who gives hours and hours outside of her day to let our students and our veterans have the experience of the honored flight. And she talks about it across her day. It's not just the honored flight. She talks about it across her day. She was instrumental in literacy, doing the Medal of Honor, and really teaching our students what it means to be a citizen of the United States and what it means to give back. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike, but she is an excellent candidate and very worthy of this award.
My name is Mike Riley. I'm the Kansas VFW 4th District Commander. I have 20 posts that start in Manhattan, go all the way to Smith Center, down to Russell, and everything in between. So consequently, the Manhattan post, which is my home post where I'm a member, each year they have a Teacher of the Year program, as well as law enforcement officer, first responder, etc. Well, consequently, Susie was chosen as the post Teacher of the Year. She got the Crystal Apple from the Manhattan Post. Well, what happens after that is that her package is then sent up to the next level, which is my level, district. And so consequently, her package now goes to my committee, as well as the other packages from the other 19 posts that I have. And she was chosen as our district Teacher of the Year. So consequently, after that, I bounce it up to state. And so it goes to Topeka, where the past state commander then has a committee and chooses the state Teacher of the Year. And I cannot tell you how happy and pleased I am to say that Susie was absolutely chosen for that. If you can imagine the competition that those packages, because they are absolutely incredible, really, really incredible. But when Jim Langley, the past state commander, called me, he said, Mike, you have this lady out there, she's something else. And I said, believe me, I know. When I was on my honor flight and I opened up these letters from my granddaughters and stuff that I didn't expect to receive and was laying on the ground bawling, you know, Susie came over to pick me up and say, you'll survive. So in any event, she gets a portfolio like this. And the portfolio is very similar. It has a picture signed by the national commander, as well as a certificate for what she accomplished. But at the state level, where did the principal go? You need to come back. Because the school now gets this portfolio for her achievement.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
It is yours.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
You, please do know this, that I live in Manhattan. But if I had the money and I could convince my wife, I'd move here. And not because it's Pot County and it's cheaper, which it is, but what this community does for veterans is just absolutely extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And so consequently, having someone like Susie, who does what she does at the school, the honor flight, 9/11, all the different things and everything, you truly are blessed. Thank you very much for allowing me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I won't say a lot. It was incredibly humbling to receive the packet. Sean put it all together and he came in August and he said, this is due in October. And so really all I had to do was put together my resume and, he did a lot of the behind the scenes work of getting the letters of recommendations from past students and current students and other colleagues. And then, so my part was pretty little just to give it to Mike and do that. So, yeah, it has been incredibly humbling to receive this at the state level, and we'll see what happens at nationals, right, Mike? Yeah, so we'll see. But thank you very much for your support of the honor flight.
Band.
The band.
The band. Parents, if you want to come around to the back, get pictures, you're welcome to.
So the first two groups are our KMEA state band, and then we'll have our state choir, KMEA small group solos. And I'm just gonna turn it over to these guys and the success that they had at KMEA state. Fantastic.
Okay, Mr. Richmond was out ill today, so I'm going to introduce students who took solos and small groups to Acacia Festival on April 5th. On April 5th at Manhattan High, receiving a 1 rating was Piper Clark, excuse me, on horn solo, Chloe Learned on flute solo, Topher Pageant on flute solo, a brass quintet of Carter McCune, Landon Lakin, Piper Clark, Clara Burgess, and Jeremy Height received a 1 rating. Topher Pageant also took a alto flute solo and received a 1 rating. Flute trio of Chloe Larned, Gracie Sievert, and Landon Baker received a 1. Gracie Clark received a 1 on her bassoon solo. The woodwind quintet of Topher, Katie Shea, Madeline May, Gracie Clark, and Piper Clark received a 1 rating. Eli Paddock took a percussion marimba solo and received a 1 rating. And Carter McCune took a trumpet solo for a 1 rating. And on horn, Katie Okonski received a 2 rating. Then at state, the last Saturday of April, Piper received a 1 on her horn. Chloe received a 1 on flute. Topher received a perfect score 1 on his flute. The brass quintet received a 1. Topher received a 1 on his alto flute solo. The flute trio of Chloe, Gracie, and Landon received a 1 rating. Gracie received a 1 on her bassoon solo. The woodwind quintet received a 2 rating. Eli received a 1 on his marimba solo, and Carter McCune received a 1 on his trumpet solo. That's the instrumental. Did I forget anyone or leave anything out? Oh, yeah, Topher did get a perfect score on his flute solo.
We said that. He definitely said that.
All right, thank you, instrumental.
Way to go.
They're making their way, same, thing that we took a group that qualified, went to regionals, then from regionals qualified for state. And I'm gonna let Mr. Rogers, tell you more about their successes.
Yeah, so they go to regionals, and if they receive a 1 rating at the regionals, then they get to take that solo or small group then on to state, which is Andover Central for 4A. And let's see, I'll get going here on a vocal. Regionals receiving a 2 rating on their solos were Gracie Clark, Marilee Hammock, Piper Clark, Shelby Coleman, Rayleigh Goins, and Katie Shea. Skylar Schoenbeck and Knox Karnowski both received 1 ratings on their vocal solos. We took 2 trios of Marilee Hammock, Maya Peterman, and Maya Kohlmeyer and Marion Peterman. They received a 1. And then the trio of Piper Clark, Skylar Schoenbeck, and Katie Shea received a 1 on their trio. We took an octet of Justin Booth, Ava Brown, Shelby Coleman, Rayleigh Goins, Knox Karnowski, Topher Padgham, Michaela Redmeyer, and Deacon Vanderbilt. They received a 1 rating on their octet. And then we took another small ensemble. Hopefully I get all these last names. Someone help me out if I stumble here. Drew Fanning, Rylan Heald, Samantha. Thank you. Shani Pittenger Reed, Kylie Rice, and Taylor Umshad. They received a 2. And then, of course, High Voltage, we took High Voltage as a small group and Treble Choir as a small group, and they both received 1 ratings. And I have to say about, just in case you didn't know about Skylar Schoenbeck, as soon as she was done with her solos and small groups, she raced off to Kaufman Stadium to sing the national anthem in the Royals game on April 5th.
Wow.
And then the state solo, down at Andover Central, Skylar and Knox both received a 1 rating on their solos. Both trios received perfect scores, and the trio of Piper, Katie, and Skylar actually made the judge weep. So I'd never seen that before. So it was very beautiful. And the octets received a 2 rating, and then again, High Voltage and Treble Choir both received a 1 rating for their work. What?
Rogers to you, Mrs. Clark. It's been a phenomenal year. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity for us to come and brag on our kids. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Forensics.
Forensic study. So while they're making their way, Mrs. Topliff and the crew hosted regionals here, in Wamego. And then, turned around a few weeks later, and went to Washburn Rural, for state, and I'm going to share more details.
My name is Jennifer Topliff. This is Jennifer Nider. We are the forensics coaches at the high school. And I'm going to have our students introduce themselves and tell you their events. And some of them qualified for state and some of them qualified for nationals as well. So I'm going to let them talk a little bit about that. We went to state, we finished just a handful of points behind Rock Creek. So we're working on it. So, but we had a great showing at state. We had 10 events in, 10 or 12 in semifinals, and ended up with 2 placings. So we brought home some hardware, and that was a very exciting day. So I was very proud of their work that they did ahead of time, and the work that they did on the day. And we're also preparing for our trip to Chicago, and I think you have our itinerary there. So we're gonna get to see some things in Chicago and prepare ourselves for performances, and also get to hopefully see some other performances while we're there as well. So it'll be a very informative time, and it really does set the tone for the next season. So it's a gift to be able to go, and we want to thank you for your support as we do that. So you didn't pay to hear me speak, you paid to hear them. So we're going to turn the floor over to them. They're going to tell you who they are and what their events are and how they finished if they would like to.
I'm Paige Latimer. I compete in improvised human acting. I competed in improvised duet acting, and I competed in poetry this year, and I went to state in both.
I'm Kara Horton. I also competed in improvised duet acting and poetry, and I only went to state for improvised duet acting.
I'm Delaney Rhodes. I also compete in improvised duet acting and humor solo acting. And I took humor solo acting to state. My name is Holly Schlifke. I took both my poetry and my performance of oral interpretation to state.
I took my original oration to state and I qualified in my original declamation and to nationals.
What's your name?
Oh, Liberty.
My name is Callie Miles, and I took duet acting to state, and I will be attending nationals for duo acting.
My name is Maddox Topliff. I went to state in duet acting and IDA. I finished state runner-ups. And I'm going into duo acting to nationals. Howdy, board members. I'm Brecken Musioki. I do prose, poetry, IDA, what was it again? Improvised duet acting. And me, my buddy Maddox, we got second in state. Pretty sigma if you ask me. And for NCK, for nationals, we're going for oil, which is a mixture of prose and poetry.
I'm Gracie Clark, and I went to state champs for informative speaking and extemporaneous speaking.
My name is Shelby Pullman. I went to state for a series solo acting, and I will be taking that to nationals in Chicago.
We don't have with us this evening Chloe Learned. She had another commitment, but I wanted to say she is also going to nationals and she finished 5th in the state in program of oral interpretation. So that was our other state medalist. So thank you so much for your.
FBLA.
Oh, that's me.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah.
So FBLA is the Future Business Leaders of America organization, and they have their state conference at Topeka every year. I'm gonna let Mr. Souther share a little bit more.
So the first person I'm gonna recognize, our entrepreneurship class competes in the Kansas Entrepreneurship Competition every year put on by Network Kansas. We partner with Pot County Economic Development, and they're an amazing partner. They get mentors for us and sponsor it, so I'll give them a shout out here. But that we compete in a district competition, and Mackenzie Meinhardt won that competition, which is a $300 winning. That earned her to go to K-State, the state competition, where she earned an extra $500. And then through her market days, so Mackenzie Meinhardt earned over $1,000 in the class this year. So we're very proud of that accomplishment. Outside of entrepreneurship, me and Mr. Fritz took our FBLA crew over to Topeka to compete in the state conference, and we had 4 people finish. Logan Evans got 6th in Intro to Infotech. Owen Fink got 1st in Intro and Marketing Concepts. Tony Shea got 6th in Public Policy and Advocacy, and then our guy Brecken here got 7th in UX Design. So we were able to have some success over in Topeka. We've had a great year.
Awesome jacket there too. So.
And the food service staff.
Good evening. I'm Kim Fitzgerald couldn't be here this evening. She's the kitchen manager at West Elementary. And Lynn Fry is the kitchen manager at the high school. And both of them were just recognized by the State Board of Education for earning their certificate in child nutrition management. This is a certificate that requires 120 hours of management level training classes. So it's quite a time commitment for both of them to do that. And I appreciate that tremendously, and I'm very proud of both of them. So.
Thank you all. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Best part of the board meeting just happened. So the administrator reports, again, I can't say it enough. I appreciate for you guys providing the situational awareness to us on that in a couple, 3 or 4, sometimes longer document, but I appreciate all those. And then going into the consent agenda, take a motion to approve that.
Mr. President, make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
A second.
Second.
Slow down, sorry. All in favor? 7-0. All right, thank you. Nothing got pulled. So sir, SRO yearly report.
As he's coming up, this is Officer Leo Lovely's first year as our SRO. If you drive up about 7:30, right there close to west, you might see his car on a regular basis. So make sure you're going 20.
It could be at any school.
That's true, it could be, that's the one I drive.
Good evening, thanks for having me. My name's Leo Lovely I don't think I've met some of you. I took over as the SRO position in November. I am certified at the National Association of School Resource Officers. And just been kind of cracking away, trying to get my feet wet, so to speak, in the new area. I was an SRO previously. So basically what I've been doing is, like Mr. McKim had said, school zone enforcement, working on building relationships with students and staff and parents, being visible, trying to visit each school each day when I'm not called away for something else or come upon something else. School staff in this transition for me has been, all of them, every school has been absolutely fantastic. If I'm effective, I couldn't be effective without what they do. I'm working on some programs, policies and best practices to go with those as I get time. Of course, there's things that demand my attention quite a bit in different places at any time, or things I just come across that I have to deal with. So that's a little slow going right now. Sorry, this is my first time doing this one. I'm trying to get it all in order. So when I view my position, I consider it to be, of course, in the name school resource officer, a resource for not just the students, but the staff and the parents, community. Be a mentor, teacher, and a coach. To do my best to ensure a safe and secure environment for everybody and our visitors. I think the last thing a SRO should be doing is unwarranted arrests whenever at all possible. Just handle things on the lowest level. On a team approach with the school staff, which has been working out tremendously. As a parent, I have a vested interest in our schools because I have kids in 2 different schools that we have here. And I'd like to get, when appropriate, get either the students and or the families additional resources when needed. Also, the staff helps me with that too. Again, they're tremendously great. I've been going to some of the trainings, mostly the ones presented by Kansas State Department of Education, which is the safe and secure schools. Been making a lot of contacts with that, a lot of great training. That's going to help build these other programs that I'm hoping to get off the ground beginning-ish of the next school year, depending upon what's going on. I just came from the National Rifle Association Vulnerability Assessor Training, which was a week-long training at Emporia State University. So now I'm certified to do vulnerability assessments on schools, on every building that we have. Have plans for more training this summer with the goals of learning new methods and best practices. As we all know, best practices change, so we want to be up on those the best we can. That's about it. I know I probably should have went longer, but I'd love any questions anybody has, if you do anything at all.
I I appreciate what you do in the school district and I've heard nothing but great things. One of the things that I ask to all the directors is they come up, since you haven't heard it before, is, you know, use us as a conduit as you get your feet underneath you for things that, you feel that this board can support, for resources that you need from us to be able to provide you to do the most effective job, that you can. We're not in the school district or in the school buildings every single day. Many of us have kids in the school district. But I appreciate what you're doing, on the safety and security side of the house as well. But please don't hesitate to reach out if there's items that you need, to make our school a safer spot. So I think we're coming a long way with some summer, work being done at, West and the middle school. But the high school is the next on the docket, and I think you'll have a big play in that with your knowledge and expertise as we look to get the high school to match the other three on the safety and security side. So I appreciate that, but thank you for what you're doing, and don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything from this body by any means.
Thank you all very much for having me, and I'm sure that'll be coming up. I appreciate you saying that. After, this next school year, probably some meetings with administration, we may be coming up with some things. So thank you all very much. And thank you all of the administrators and school staff for what they do. Thank you.
Mr. Laura.
And as the buck stops here, I know I'm not on the agenda. Do you have any questions for the chief, please? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Fun part. I know that you guys got my beautiful presentation, and have studied it extensively, right?
That's right.
Okay, so I'm not gonna go through it bit by bit. I'm gonna hit some highlights, and I want you guys to, you know, address and ask any questions. Oh, you're gonna put it up there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about participation first. We're holding steady with participation. We've seen a big increase. Now, I should point out, we're missing 2 months worth of data, right? For 25, like April and May are not in there, so those will come up, but, you can see that, I did a lot of comparison between 2019 and now, and that's because that's the last normal year we had before COVID, right? And I don't want to dwell on all of that, but it really impacted what we did. And so some of the data is very skewed and whatever, because we were doing free meals and et cetera. But you can see that in 2019, we were not serving very many breakfasts. We've almost doubled our breakfast every day. And the biggest contribution to that is the second chance breakfast at the high school. We're offering breakfast when they're hungry. When we had before school breakfast, we fed about 30 of them a day. And now we feed between 150 and 180. So we all know that middle schoolers and high schoolers are just not ready to eat that early in the morning. So that's been the biggest improvement there. Obviously, our high participation in 22, that was the year all school meals were free. So it's hard to compete with that. But our ADPs are looking pretty good, pretty even. So pretty happy with that. The next slide just shows you that we're spending appropriately. I mean, this is where you want to see your money in the food service budget going. You want it to go to food and staff. And our revenue is pretty split between state and student meals. Other funds, sometimes that's a little bigger. It depends on how many grants I've written and received that year. Last year was kind of a lean grant year, so that's the data that's up there, okay? Then we have what's been going on with all of the increases. So again, I compared 19 and 25. I picked 15 menu items. I only put 4 up on here because it's enough. But on average, food costs have gone up 41%. Now, that's been a little bit year by year, right? But that is a big, big jump. We normally in the food biz, expect about a 4% increase a year. We've, everything went sky high. We couldn't get anything. Things came back down a little, but it's just like everything else. Once it goes high, it doesn't really come back down. So you can see the increase on milk, same vendor, same milk. Chicken nuggets, same vendor, same company, manufacturer, same chicken nuggets. Pizza, I made sure I was comparing, apples to apples. So when we look at, our other big expense, labor has also gone up, and as it should. I not only looked at the starting wages, which were $9.50 in 2019 and are now $12.50. But I wanted to look at what I'm actually averaging as I'm paying my folks. And you can see there's a huge jump there, 42%. The biggest impact for that is because for the last 2 years, I've had 0 turnover.
Congratulations.
If I had a whole staff of newbies, it would be a lot less of my budget, but I'd have a whole staff of newbies. And we don't want that. We want our people to stay. And, so although it is, it's 42% increase, but I'm proud of them and I'm happy and I'm glad that they keep coming back. So, and I did want to just point out too, that how many hours per day that we schedule has stayed on track as well. Which if I'd seen that go really high, of course I analyze this a lot, but if we're not producing enough meals to support the labor hours, then we have a problem. I make those adjustments. So let's talk about income, reimbursement rates, same time frame. Have only gone up 33% on average. They did go a little higher during COVID, and then they came back down, and then they came back down more. So we are not, so in I know that's hard to read, but let's just look at paid lunch. So paid lunches in 2019, for every paid lunch, full pay lunch, we received 0.645 cents from state and federal funds. Now we receive 0.85 cents. So 33 is less than 41 and 42, okay? Then we're only about 30% free and reduced, 70% full pay. So let's look at our full pay meal prices. 2019 on the left, that's what they were. And 2025, this is what they are. These have only gone up 10%. And we've been able to do that because I've always had a very flush department with good carryover. And when you do that, KSDE gives you an exemption for not having to match your meal prices to what the paid lunch equity tool tells you you need to be paying. So we've gotten these exemptions year after year. We have raised, obviously, but only 30 cents for those paid meals. So I know it's on your fee schedule. If you want to go to the next one, this is my recommendation. But I want you to know that that PLE tool is recommending 385, which means that elementary would be 380 and secondary would be 390. So we're still significantly lower than what the PLE tool is saying. And with the way that milk has gone up even this year, I think we've got to go up on milk to stay ahead of that. So that's my recommendation, but we will go over that a little bit more if you want when you have questions or when you're doing your thing. The next screen just gives you a snapshot of, we do have a lot of income out there that's sitting in these delinquent accounts. Many years ago, our district decided that the priority was that we need to feed kids and that hungry kids don't learn. So we feed kids whether they have a positive balance or not. There is no lunch shaming in our district. I don't want to see a return to that. And we're doing everything we can to encourage parents to pay, but this is the reality. Some of this, you see at the very bottom, we have some inactive debt that is non-collectible. And by the definition that this board adopted a bad debt, it's gonna qualify for that. We also have some money in the top line that is potential bad debt, and that's what I'm spending. I spent 2.5 hours today and got through 15, 16 kids. Because we have to look at the whole history and all the family connections and when to blah, blah, blah. So it's really time consuming, but I will be sending Mr. McKim an invoice and he's gonna write that check as fast as he can, I know it.
We will.
So that's kind of an FYI that is happening. And then I want you guys to have your crystal balls out. Right? Because I don't know where we're going. That, nice carryover amount that I've been able to maintain for 17 years is gone because we have not kept up with income versus the expenses of food and labor. I think Kayla can back me up, maybe. We're gonna squeak by. And we might have a little extra. But the days when I can say I need to replace 3 refrigerators and a milk cooler and I have $160,000 to do that from the food service fund, it's not there. So my equipment replacement plan will be going into capital outlay as we need that. I'm thankful that we have the district kitchen, which is, we're taking very good care of it. Thank you. Taxpayers for approving that and building that, but it's all the same age. Every piece of equipment in there. So, I'm, holding breath, doing all the things, but, I also don't know what, without crystal ball, the future of funding is for our program. The USDA has already cut $1 billion that was earmarked for, farm to school, and food banks. That money is gone. We've received 2 of those grants in the past. There's a bill in the Ways and Means Committee right now that got tabled like everything else as they're going through the budget, trying to come up with a budget. That is, they're proposing to cut 12 billion from school nutrition. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you that School Nutrition Association has surveyed all of its members. 92% of the directors, people like me across the country, are very concerned about the sustainability of our programs and don't know where we're going to be in 2 years' time. So it's not just here and it's not just us. It's everywhere. Okay, now let's talk about fun stuff. So summer feeding, summer lunch is coming. We took that over from Community Health Ministry the summer 2020, because we were feeding like 900 kids a day. So I didn't include 20 and 21 on there because those were astronomically different program. But since we've started a regular SFSP program, we've grown every year. Last year, we were able to go to non-congregate feeding. Qualify as a rural school. And on the left, I only did lunches served over there so that you could see how many more, like we almost, it's tons more lunches, but we also served breakfast. So our reimbursement for last summer was very good, and it has helped us this year with this program, but we expect for it to continue to grow. We have a great partnership with the Wamego United Methodist Church. It's worked really well for families. It's much more walkable. There's better parking than having it at the high school. So we're really pleased, and they're happy to have us back again. So I'm glad for that. So June 2nd is when we start through July 31st. I try to collaborate with the library on themes, and the summer reading theme is Color Your Way. So we are going to color our way to a healthy plate. Rob's gonna have to come and see what it looks like. But, we're gonna highlight the colors, all the colors of the fruits and vegetables, each week, so it'll be a lot of fun. The last thing I'm really gonna talk about, because you can look at all the other pictures, is I have made sure that all of our building staff know that food service is here and can be a partner in the classroom in lots of different ways. So I had sent out a nice infographic earlier in the school year and I had lots of staff reaching out. One of the fun things, I taught STEM at the middle school. We don't pay those people enough. I'm just telling you right now. Which was a lot of fun. Mr. Turner was gracious. All of the experiments and things that we did for those 2 weeks were all involving food with science. So that glowing orb is an egg. If you soak it in vinegar for 2 days, it turns into a bouncy ball. And it was so fun. So, and they also glow when you put a light on. But like at West Elementary, they were studying the Boston Tea Party and they said, could we have scones? Because we're gonna have a tea party. So I made 144 scones and sent them over and they had their tea party. And great partnership, and I want more of them, is student intern from the high school. This has been just an incredible experience for us and for Ryan. We're gonna miss him. His dream is to have a food truck. And so I think he's learned a lot from us and we have really appreciated having student perspective. He's done everything from make taco meat to help with the bank deposit. I mean, he's really seen the program from all angles. So maybe he'll be a food dude someday in a lunchroom somewhere. And then I just put in some stuff about professional development and fun things that we've been doing. I am active with School Nutrition Association at the state level and the national level. Currently on the state board as a North Central area rep and communications chair. And then I'm on the national membership committee, which is why I got to go to the National Leadership Conference. And I want to point out that head on the right, the top picture on the far right, the woman on the right and the bottom, that is our national president. And she was in my section. But it went great. So, anyway, then just some fun stuff. So, questions?
Laura, where does the funding for the summer program come from?
USDA, same.
So that's available for this year then?
Yes, although that has been touch and go as well.
Okay.
Everyone has been nervous, but I think that the not being able to pass a budget that stalled everything bought us some time. I don't know where it'll be next year.
Who qualifies for summer meals?
Anybody, 1 to 18, do not have to be a student. So if you have grandkids visiting this summer, bring them on down for a free lunch.
So we are hosting ESY for this event here. And so those kids from Rock Creek and Muncie can get food the same.
Yes, yeah, even though they're Rock Creek students, it does not.
We'll still feed them.
Yeah.
We'll pour those. So, but yeah.
We won't harass them. No, we want to feed kids. We know that kids frequently, there's not enough food in the house in the summers. And so we love that we can do a lunch and a breakfast for the following day. So.
What do you need from us? I knew I was gonna ask him.
New freezers apparently.
No, I don't need anything right now, but just know that first, it was a really hard thing for me to come to terms with because I've been doing this a long time. It's a source of pride. And to know that the program, it's hard. But my number one goal, my passion, my drive is to feed kids. And that's what I'm gonna keep doing, no matter no matter what, but we just want to keep the same quality, scratch made, fresh, all that. We want to hang on to that. That's something very special for our district. And something that I'm being asked to share with other districts more and more. I've done 2 technical visits to other school districts. I'm mentoring several new directors in different districts, so my team does great stuff. They do really great stuff.
No question. Some of the states have started outlining certain ingredients.
Mhm.
Do you know if Kansas will get, was Kansas getting any of that?
Mm-mm. And, well, it's FDA, so it's federal, the red dye.
Well, that I know, but some of the states just went a little further. Some other states did, but I don't know if Kansas is doing.
And I have seen nothing on the radar through all the legislative stuff that I watch. So whenever there's state or national legislation that's comes, I get alerts, because I write my people a lot. So no, I have not heard that Kansas is doing anything.
The red dye, we don't.
Oh, we don't, yeah, no red dye free. We have a few red dye 40, but they're all a la carte. It's not anything that we're menuing
Right.
to kids, so and it's like fruit roll-ups and chips. Almost all, check your chips at home. Almost all of your chips are full of artificial colors.
Just about everything is rich 40 units.
Yeah,
So,
but the manufacturers are gonna catch up to that. It's just gonna take a minute.
Right.
People
Maybe
say
here.
it tastes so good. Oh, for 2.
Oh, thanks.
We also have some new dietary specifications that will be taking place this fall. I included that in one of my board reports about where we are meeting those added sugars. We're already on track. We're just waiting on some manufacturers and they're getting on track. They have to reformulate because we don't make Frosted Flakes from scratch.
Right.
But the people who do know that they have to meet those standards. So
I got a crazy question. So I was kind of shocked that I didn't get more emails. But I noticed this year that we had kind of moved away from a Lent schedule in the spring,
no, we had it at the middle school and the high school.
the middle school, so not in the other 2 buildings anymore.
We've never offered it at the elementary because it's not a requirement for children that age.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's just been a while.
But no, we do that in the spring. So usually we've always done fish, but we always have PB&J as well.
Yeah.
And because we never know how many of them are actually gonna, we don't want to cook a whole bunch of fish and then. So lots of PB&Js.
No, I didn't have any complaints. I was just wondering
Yep, no, we still did it.
the other 2 schools. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the
Thank
good
you.
stuff.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
Pre-K discussion.
So, and I sent you some stuff about this. So really what we're looking for, 2 things, and I think I get to report this stuff. There's been a lot of people this year that have done a lot of work in childcare realm. Mr. Meitler has done a ton of work for us. And to be honest with you, we've done a lot of this through the year with planning and then very beginnings not being a part. So things took off and then they kind of plateaued and we don't really know a lot of what they're doing with that facility. So it's kind of made it so we put some stuff on hold. But where we want to move forward, where I think we need to move forward is at our schools currently where we offer pre-K. And so that's Central Elementary, and just a little background. And I don't know how far back, find that, but we started the program when it became the opportunity to educate. I say the opportunity. If students have an IEP, they can't get it before 3, but at the age of 3, they have an IEP. And once they have an IEP, then federal say they need to be educated, and we started with that program. A lot of people started in that program, and then we jumped on with the opportunity to have models with those students. So typically developing peers, I think I said that correctly. Did I say that? Yeah, I've worked on that. Typically developing peer models in the classroom with our students' IEPs, so that helps them grow, grow quicker. As we, and I say we, as a state has moved along with 3-year-old programs and 4-year-old programs, they've started recommending going to universal preschool, which is some IEP students, some at-risk students, and hopefully some model students as well, if there's time. And the state reimburses for, federals reimburse us for the students with IEP. State reimburses us some more for the students with IEP, and the state reimburses us for the at-risk students. The state does not, nobody reimburses us for the model students. So we have had a cost that we ask our families to provide for that. $200 a semester, which is $400 a year. So that's a bit of the background of that program. The goal is, of course, educate as many kids as we possibly can. And if we had more space, I think we put more classrooms in there. Right now, space is a concern for us. And I know we're continuing to look for that, but we're a pretty unique school district, in my opinion. A number of schools have gone to programs where they're declining enrollment. Now they have maybe a classroom or two that they can put their pre-K programs into without building. And it fits nicely into their school districts, and they provide a service for the community. And usually, because they're not having that increase in cost, they're usually able to come fairly even. Other school districts, especially some of those that are growing, tend to build those, whether that be through a bond or other things. We're kind of right in that middle, but we're not growing, we're not declining, and so we're trying to figure that out at this time. So here's the recommendation, and you guys have seen all of that. There's two things that we're really talking about here. One is how we select our students to be in our program. And the universal model has really 4 areas. One of the areas is IEP students. If they have an IEP, they're in, period. That's federal law. And when they get an IEP, so if we have a 3-year-old that turns 3 in December, well, we have a student that turns 3 in December, they're not in. As soon as December hits and they turn 3 and they have that IEP, they are in our program, starting right then. So those will continue. You also have at-risk students, and the state's identified, is it 7? Do I have that right? 7 at-risk factors that students can identify, or parents can identify as I fit into these categories. So 7 at-risk factors. If they have 1 or more, they qualify as at risk, and the state provides additional funding for their students. 3rd and 4th model really go together, and that would be model students. So those students that don't have an IEP and those students that don't qualify as at risk. The reason we've split them is we've said, whenever we can, we want to provide opportunities for our staff first. And so staff students of staff would be really the 3rd category, and then call model students, so students of other community families would be that 4th category. Again, 3rd and 4th category kind of go the same. It's both model students, but we've put a little bit of a priority for our staff in that process. Fee side, I said before, we currently have those model students pay $200 a semester and $400 a year. And that's not allowing us to anywhere close to a model where we can I'm not gonna say break even, because we won't break even, but get closer to being self-funded, which is this type of program where we would like to be closer to be. Universal model, Rock Creek uses it, Wabunsee going to it, Caw Valley uses it, Manhattan uses it. We're probably the last one in the area that still uses the old model of this, so. And we're recommending on fees, changing that. Now, there's gonna be two pinch points to where I go through, and I pinch point is always something that like, ooh, this causes a little heartache, whether it be in our community, or staff. But as my recommendation would be that we select students based on the four categories. So first is IEP, that's not a choice. Second would be at-risk factors, and then a student that has 7 at-risk factors would be a higher priority than a student that has 1. That's how you kind of differentiate. Then you would choose your students from your staff, third, and then model students from the community, fourth. The community model students would really just need to be first come, first serve. We wouldn't have any, so if you got your name in first, you'd have top of the list. So fees, we do want to try and, we don't do this as much as we would love to, but at the staff level, we want to try and keep that the same. So $200 per semester, $400 for the year. That would be a nice little help for our families that are working for us. And then moving our community to a rate that gets us closer to solvent, which would be $150 for the month of August, and then $200 a month for each month after that through May. So $200 for September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, and May, which would put that cost right around just a little bit under $2,000 if I figured that correctly. So pretty big jump. Again, pinch points for some of our community members. Those seats is what they call them, aren't mandatory, so this isn't something that anybody has to do. The recommendation is also that we have students that are model students right now in 3-year-old program. We would want to give them the opportunity to stay as a model student in the 4-year-old program, if they're willing to pay the new rate. So that would be a family decision at that time. I think I covered it all. What questions do you have?
Rob, do we currently have 3 classrooms?
Correct. So it's AM is the 3-year-old programs and PM is the 4-year program.
And how many students per session, per section?
Yeah, oh boy.
About.
Yeah, so the 3-year-old program grows during the year. 4-year-old can too, right? The 3-year-old program, Shane, you know numbers this year?
Oh, well, historically, we've always averaged 8 to 10 identified students for each group. And that's the end of the year, 3-year-old grows. And then we have about 4-year models. We've been anywhere from that 12 to 14 number, depending on the year.
4-year-old program, similar numbers? Yeah. Per classroom, so times that by 3.
Per class.
So 42, 40, somewhere in there, potentially. Where we've seen that.
And we're still gonna house them at Central?
Yes, yeah, so our classroom availability isn't changing for next year, so we're gonna, that's part of the reason. We would like to grow that, and so your IEP students, you put less of them in a classroom. Now that the interesting part, and Eric is here as well, so part of this is also SPED funding. So the SPED side also covers that. So if you have half of your students in a classroom that are identified, so they have an IEP, then you get full CAT aid for that teacher. If you have less than half, you get a percentage of that. But neither Wabunsee nor Rock Creek continue with that model. So we're the only one. And right now, those teachers have all been considered special ed staff. And so we paid them through that funds. So that's that will probably change eventually too. So
But not this next year.
we think we're gonna try and do it one more year this way. Don't tell Rob, pretty good.
Just did it.
No, yeah, they know that.
So are we anticipating that, if we were to, because the main thing on here is discussion of the student selection and fees
Mhm.
approval.
Mhm.
Are we anticipating, kind of to get back to what Deb asked, are we anticipating that those numbers are going to stay the same? Or with the addition of how we're going to select, potentially grow the amount of kids that are in those classes?
I think we have to be careful getting them too big, so I would say we're gonna, that 14 number per class is a pretty good number. We don't have as many students on an IEP at the 3-year-old program going to the 4 years from what I remember, so we have a few more spots or slots for typical developing students to fill that as well.
Do you anticipate any losses with raising your fees?
I think there would be.
Because there used to be a waiting list when we.
Right.
I was gonna ask, do we have
a current waiting list
We do? Okay.
for model students?
Well, we've just kind of held, to be honest with you, so we've done all our staff has done all the work, and so families are waiting a little bit for us to make a decision on which direction we're going to go and what's going to be that. I can't imagine that there wouldn't be families that would go, that's more than I want to pay.
It's still a huge cost savings from
I
what.
don't know what their
childcare
other
is
option would be.
elsewhere.
They're not gonna find something more affordable.
I think where there might be a concern is if their daycare does not give them a break for the morning. So they're continuing to pay the full cost of daycare and throwing that on top. I could see that. Now, their daycare might, and so then, yes, I don't think they're gonna get any better financial deal than that, but there may be some families where that's not an option. And there's other families that are at home, not paying daycare or figuring that out themselves. And so this was an additional cost that might be too burdensome. So don't really know. Rock Creek probably went to this 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And they had some growing pains, but I've got through that. Their costs are a little bit higher, so they're 200 for the month of August and 250 for each month thereafter.
These IEPs include speech or anything?
Not usually, not that you can't have an IEP with speech on it, but that's not usually the ones that qualify here.
Who's the determining factor on the at-risk? Is that the parent? Is that you? Is that?
Parent, they're all self-identified.
Who validates it?
Thank you. Who validates it? Words have meaning. Who validates whether a child is at risk? Is it just the parent?
Are you looking at me?
Whoever, I don't know.
Somebody that knows.
Somebody smarter than me is sitting over there.
So there's an application that Shane's put together, so yes, parents would self-identify within that application whether they're at risk or not. I'm sure that if there was a concern, there could always be verification, just like, as a building principal, if I had concerns about somebody living in my area or not, I could do an address verification to ensure that they actually did live in my area in Manhattan. So you could do something similar with the application and check into it further to ensure that they met those at-risk factors.
One of the at-risk factors is single parent families. I guess the question you would be asking is who checks it and make sure that they didn't just check something.
They could get in.
So that they could get in. I would bet that we have ways to do
We'll
that.
have, and I would say we'll have to follow whatever, it's a KSDE. Program, it's a program from KSDE, so we'll have to follow whatever they're saying. Sarah thinks that at one of her previous schools, they weren't even allowed to verify, things like that, so I don't know, we'll have to get direction from KSDE.
From the staff, is there anything we haven't talked about or Rob didn't highlight that we need to know?
with you guys here?
I'd say our biggest concern is, compromising the ability to serve our identified students. Not having those, typically developing students or ensuring there's spots for those students, because I shared the data successes. I hear our kindergarten teachers talk about how our identified students are ready, for kindergarten. And I think that's testament to our teachers, but also having some of those, ensuring there's typically developing students with them. And so I think that's probably our biggest concern, because right now it's 8 to 10 identified students with 4 to 6 spots available, depending on what we have. And making sure that we have that, because if I go to design class for first grade, I make sure I have an MTSS model. I have that tier 1, I have a tier 2, I have a tier 3. I want to make sure there's a diverse representation in the class. So I think right now we want to serve all of our identified students. We don't have space to really go to a true universal, would be our biggest concern.
Yeah, then we're gonna have to tackle the rest of the day. Because I think when we start looking at the retention and recruitment, it's not the first time we've talked about what do we do for our staff that have young kids. And what are they doing for the rest of the day?
Now, right now, we don't take care of it for the rest of the day.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
No, but I think that's the next step.
yeah. I think yes,
But
childcare,
space.
that's more space and that's part of some of the stuff that Scott was working through and we're just not quite there.
Is there any update on that empty building up there north of town?
If we had a pot of money,
So is it officially like for sale or able to buy right now?
they texted me the other day, the owners texted me the other day and asked if I was ready to sit down. I mean, I've applied for some grants, but it's not gonna cover the amount of, I mean, it's gonna cost a lot more than the grants that I've applied for, so, it's going to take money in order for us to buy them.
Yeah, I mean,
Staffing at this point would be nearly impossible.
right.
Right, I mean, we could not buy it right now and expect to open the doors in August.
Yeah, no, I think that, and we're being recorded, so I don't want you to give away the farm or anything on this one, but I think we're at a point where we have to sit down with them so that we're in the same ballpark and we have an idea of what that looks like, but I would like to have as much concrete data as possible, but that's just me.
Yep, yes, we can listen, and
Yeah.
see what that is.
Right.
That's why you build a cap outlay fund a little bit, and hopefully have some grace in that. Not a ton, you know me, I don't like to be bare bones if you can, but it's also why you do build up a little bit there if something comes along. So here's where it does get interesting for you. How we select students is not, it's never been board approved, it's just what we've chosen. Fees are, I put the fees in the fee sheet. You can always, later, that's a later conversation, actually, it's right after this one, but, so we could always pull that out or change that. For selection process, really, I would want to figure out kind of what your thoughts are at this time, so we can move ahead. I think you're gonna need to be there sooner, be in the universal pre-K model sooner rather than later. And Shane and I respectively disagree. We had that conversation. We trust each other. We just don't see it the same way in this situation. That's okay. But
You mean in the selection process?
in the selection process, yeah, I don't think the fees we differ at all. We would love for it to be free for everyone all the time. It's just, yeah, I would love to not do any fees anywhere. Have students pay for lunches. That's the bleeding heart in me probably, but unfortunately, that's just not possible. So yeah, the selection process is probably where
That's the decision.
I would like your feedback on. And then we will.
We could still approve the fees for 25, 26, and the next agenda item we can carry this conversation on, correct? Because we're not, like, when do we want to tell parents that we're selecting their kid?
We need to let them know soon. We need to really, they've been waiting for probably a month. And if not, they need to find other places for them to, whether their kid to be in either in a preschool setting, stay where they are, or with us. So we probably made them wait a month too long, to be honest with you.
Well,
Sorry.
Is there any way that we can hear from the experts over here? What their thoughts are on the selection process? I mean, everybody's got their own thoughts, but the experts are the
I'd like to hear Mr. Neal's thoughts on it.
teachers or Mr. Neal.
I think for me, like the thought of universal, in order for it to really work in this district, we just need more space. As Shane has said, we have 8 to 10 identified kids, and if we open it up to at-risk, then we're probably gonna fill our classroom with identified kids and at-risk students. And then it's not universal, because anybody that's not at risk or doesn't have a developmental delay or disability won't be able to access it. If we do it tiered. If we have a lot of families that qualify for at-risk, there won't be room for others to enroll. Somebody that is just a gen ed student, that we wouldn't have gen ed students in our classroom. That would be my only concern.
What's the risk potentially if you did fill your students with IEPs and at risk? Is it, I mean, I'm trying to balance it between if you have the peer models, I mean, who needs the service more? I would think that risk and IEPs would need it more.
Yes, and at-risk students can make wonderful peer models. We have some current students that can fill those roles,
Right.
but you don't know what you're getting. So you're guaranteed gen ed spots, I think, by reserving a few spots. And just so you know too, we've always we vet our peers, like they pass the screening, but then they come in and they spend a week or two with us. So if I have a classroom that I know I've got significant social and language delays, then I'm bringing in peers that I think will have really strong skills in those areas. So it's not, and we have all teachers' kids, like we always try to take teachers' kids, but we're looking for certain things, and I think it just, we want our kids that need help in those areas to see other children doing those things at a great strength.
What's the ideal balance for peer kids?
Thank you. The ratio.
The early childhood experts would say 50-50. But we've always been more than that, so.
In your experience, what would you?
We've always had more identified students than, non-eds in our classrooms. We've capped that at 4 gen ed students. Yeah, 4 or possibly 5, depending on the number of identified students.
Is that enough to make a difference? Or is it?
Oh, yeah.
Is that per section, 4 or 5 per section?
And in the morning, kids, unless we have concerns with them, they just move to the afternoon, which is why it's so hard to get a 4-year-old peer spot. And we have had several times where kids are enrolled as peers and it's not working, and we talk to parents and we can do it like, evaluate them or something like that, so. Those little kiddos have an important job.
Yeah, for sure. And to be clear, all at-risk kids are considered peer models or typically developing. It's only those students with special needs that would not be.
What is Rock Creek's average size right now if they're making it work? Did anybody know their ratios?
What was, I can't hear.
Their classes
Rock
are a little
Creek's-
small. They're
Rock Creek.
I believe last time I talked to a teacher, I went in her classroom, and I think she only had 8 students in there, maybe 9. I think they're having a hard time filling their gen ed spots. From what I last heard, Erica might know different, but I think that's the last I had heard, I'm not sure.
They have
considerably more that are not identified in their program, but it's intended to be that way as a universal preschool. I would also say their identified numbers, their special ed numbers went down a lot when they went to universal pre-K. Like there's a drastic difference if you look at the districts between the number of identified students, because I think when you move to more of that universal model, you start having that opportunity for more students to have that exposure to that core content or that typically developing curriculum for all students, which is what the idea is with the universal preschool model. And then you don't have they get that exposure and you don't have as many students that need them to be identified for special education. Here we have to identify them for special education often because that's how they get in and are part of our program, if that makes sense.
I would think Rock Creek would also have some logistical challenges with transportation.
Sure.
Where we're essentially located, which is a big benefit.
And they're also, I mean, they take 3-year-olds that are identified, but they're a 4-year-old program. So like you can't enroll at Rock Creek as a 3-year-old. It's a 4-year-old program at Rock Creek. So.
That's maybe where it's a lower class size.
Right.
And you might keep in mind the kids that are at risk, a lot of times it can be an exposure issue. Because when we think about that equity, a lot of times when you consider the at-risk factors, those are factors that maybe mean those young kids haven't had that exposure. But if you get them into that preschool model and they get exposure, a lot of times they catch up fast and then they whiz right past a lot of kids because they all of a sudden have that exposure and they catch up. And there's a lot of research that really shows that that does happen when they are given that opportunity. So that's something else to keep in mind as you think about equity and like what's really good for the whole system. So.
Well, it's important to retain flexibility for all of you. So to give a hard, fast number, like 4 kids or 5 kids per section, I can see that you would need some fluidity in some of that at different times. So. Look.
So,
Is the question whether to approve it as it is with the?
no. So we're not, the concern that I have for the fellow members of the board is we're not gonna be the decision-making group
Right.
on how many and what type of the 4 tiers that Mr. McKim laid out.
Say that. All right.
I want to know who is making that decision. And then we all need to be communicated with because when the Billings kid, and I'll use me because I ain't having no more, it would be in this group, but when the Billings kid doesn't get in, I'm calling a board member, say, hey, why didn't my kid get in, but the Hargett kid did? We live on the same road, or right, like, what is the difference?
Yeah.
So I'm good with the education people in this room making the decision, and I think that who needs to make the decision, but we're gonna need to be communicated with on how we got to the answer so that, because that's what's gonna happen. When we start going down this road, we're gonna get the phone calls and we all need to be on the same sheet of music of where we're at and how this decision was made, so.
And transparency.
Yeah.
Be the next director report.
All right.
Be in front fellow.
And part of the problem is
Yeah.
the educated professionals don't agree.
Right.
I mean, I'm gonna sit here and say, I think it needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Fed, at-risk, staff, models.
Right.
That's where I am, based on the information that I know.
And don't you think you run the risk of not having any peer models in those classrooms?
I think peer models can sit in your at-risk students. We have them now. We do run the risk of not having any of the 4th category. We run the risk of not having any of the 3rd category as well.
I'm more concerned about the 3rd category than I'm about the 4th
Me too.
category.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be callous, but 4th category is where it should be, the lowest priority. But it's the problem is where the 3rd needs to have some sort of priority.
Fair.
And so I don't know if there's a secondary priority that you look at when you look at the tier 2, tier 3, to make sure there's a balance there, but because we have to support our staff.
I think I would agree, and that's why we moved 3 in there, because it would have been 1, 2, and then 4 basically, but we moved up that slot.
It's almost like 1, 2A, 2B.
The hard part, Mike talked a little bit about, how do you answer when Ryan's kid gets in and Mike's doesn't?
I've lived that.
Huh?
I lived it.
Yep, yeah, it's.
So, yeah. I
But
know.
if you have an at-risk parent and their child doesn't get in and the staff's child, you know, the teacher child gets in, I mean, no, this is all stuff that, you know, will make it to a phone call to us.
Which I'll field. I just want to make,
Yeah.
like, I have no
No,
problem.
it's fine. I just want to know what the direction is.
Position paid for my phone.
I have enough information now to do those calls. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said, you know, really have. But I just have to say that in my heart, these teachers who are on the front line are the people that I need to hear from. They're the people that are gonna be seeing everything, and I just want to be sure that we're all being transparent with them as well as they are with us, and we need to know what you all need for help, but they're the people that are gonna be doing everything, and they're the people that, you know, I'm gonna want to hear from. So.
You said the ideal ratio is a 1-for-1, but we're looking more at like a 4-to-1 with that risk to model. You said like 50-50, like have.
Right now, we're 50% or more spent.
Okay.
Yeah, so the remaining spots potentially be filled with that risk, who can be typically developing. That's not what we're saying at all. Like we have them now. You know, that, or they're at risk, they still have great model skills in other areas. So, like Jolene said, I don't know, but we're 50% or more sped, and I don't know that this is a bubble year where we could have taken more kids, but in the past, we would have had room for many more, because we were ending with 13 or 14 in the class. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I was curious, so like, if there's like a good ratio of your model students to at-risk or IEP students, like, what's a good ratio for for the kids to improve?
I might be able to answer a little bit of your question. The reason that this model is the way it is right now, ECSE, early childhood special ed, the 50-50 model, is because if we tip over the 50% identified kids, then we start losing funding for those teachers, for those programs. And so we are keeping that 50-50 ratio, but what the state really wants us to see, because we want to go to least restrictive environment for everybody, and really a universal preschool model gets us to least restrictive environment. What we really want to see happen is we want to push the classrooms over the edge of 50% identified students. We want there to be less identified students in the classroom and more typically developing students in the classroom. And part of typically developing students are often at-risk students, not that eventually those also can potentially become identified for special ed services. The issue you run into with this is we're limited on space. So if you're going to move to a universal preschool model, you have to start somewhere. So this is kind of the starting point. But eventually the goal would be, let's get all of our preschool classrooms to where there's a lower number of identified students and more other students, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So always is least restrictive environment. So when we're talking that 50-50 model, we really want to get away from thinking there has to be that even match or less identified students. We really want to have more typically developing kids in the classroom. And with that is at risk, and then less students in special education, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But we have to service our students in special ed, and that's why we have the model we have right now for 3 to 5, because we just don't have the space to service them otherwise, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly right.
So let me throw something out here, because I think is where we're at is we're missing a little bit of board guidance and direction for the decision-making authority. So
We're being asked to split a tie here. We're educators.
well, yeah, no, I appreciate everything, but I think
I
is
don't
what
know
we,
if I feel like splitting a tie,
yeah,
you know, as not being the educated person.
Yeah.
so
That's my mind, and that's my mind.
Yeah.
Being asked to break a tie between people that darn agree.
correct. And I think we need to get the board needs to provide some direction.
These parents need to know soon.
Yes,
So I've
so
been in that spot.
where I'm at, and we can take a little vote here or not or whatever, but where I'm at is, no disrespect to him, but he's leaving, and I think that Mr. Neal needs to make the vote on where we're doing to give to the parents, and then to let the parents know, and then next year we see how it works, and then he can have conversations with Mr. Meyer going forward on what we're gonna do. I mean, he's living in his building, and so I think I think there's mentorship and things that need to happen, but we need to make a decision. We need to get it out to the parents, and I think that's how we go going forward.
I agree.
I would echo that, no disrespect.
Okay.
I think that fellow back there should.
We good with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Please work that so we can communicate that with kind of how we're going forward, and let me know if you need any other guidance. I can typically speak for most of the board without getting myself in too much trouble when we're not in session.
But then we need to discuss the fees.
Yeah, so that's the next item.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the next item. Can you pull that up? So number 12, there's an Excel document there that talks about the 25-26 enrollment fees. I guess, and this will be a Mr. Meyer thing coming up, but I would really like to see this for like next year, like greens and reds, or greens if it increased, or black, because I can't pull this from memory on where we're at.
I'll walk through it. Yeah, I'll walk you through it. I've got it.
Perfect.
Looks good.
It was.
Here we go. So yep, top one, top left, central PK, that's a change. That's what we talked about, $200 a month plus plus $150 for August. We didn't put the total there, but that would be a little under $2,000 for a role model fee. The no change on any of those other instructional materials, technology, the recorder. Some people, if they have a third grade student, may not want the recorder, but all of them get it anyway. So sorry.
Do we do hand-me-down recorders? Is that okay?
I don't.
We did.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we did.
Yeah.
So it's $6 or come with a recorder. We're good with that?
I think that's, yeah, probably the case.
All right.
All these,
Without the squeaking.
yeah, all these food service fees have changed. Laura talked about those.
Yeah.
And the reason behind those. Then if you go into the optional fees, so if you want to buy a yearbook, Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, we changed, the middle school to $40. And then as we're going down, nothing else changed until we get to middle school art. We changed that from 10 to 15. And those are just, art supplies cost more, right? So we're having trouble, making those fees. We took out a drafting class because we don't offer that anymore. And let's see if I can get far. Drafting, and then we added high school guitar at the very bottom for $13. The reason we added that class is the book is $13 and they get to keep it, so they get to take it home with them. And keep that forever. So we have to buy new books every time we offer the class. That's really a consumable to take in. So everything else stayed the same.
Good.
Probably the biggest one is up there at the very top.
Yeah, stand back up, please.
That's the one that, yeah, will get you the most phone calls. Um,
There's been some rumblings on social media that our fees are a lot higher than other schools. You ever done a comparison on that for us?
I haven't,
It's okay, I just was curious.
yeah, I don't. mean. Oh, I don't know that I can only go off with the ones that I know from experience as being a principal, and they're not, but that doesn't mean they're not for the area.
I thought we checked before and then that I don't think we had, if ever extended anything unreasonable at all, so.
I don't think we've increased fees in 2 years that I've been here, so this would be the first time that we've increased any
That's what I count.
fees.
Okay.
And our art classes are really struggling to stay up with the stuff that they have to buy. You know, we have for our woods and for our shop, for our metals classes, we have plus cost of projects, so that takes care of some of those. Now in metal, you've got rod, if you're
Right.
a wire, depending on how you're welding, but, we've kind of eaten that cost. Can't do that in art.
So I guess realistically, does anybody minus the pre-K fees, does anybody else have any glaring issues with any of those other ones?
Negative.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk pre-K and then put a bow on this one. Where are you guys at concerns on the role model fees? So we talked about the two fees that we talked about was if a staff member were to get in their child, it would be $200 for the semester and $400 for the school year.
Which is what they're paying now.
What it is now, yeah. A non-USD 320 employee. Is that a true statement? Employee. Not,
Child, yeah.
and, okay, so that's a teacher or a janitor or, okay.
Anybody that's employed by USD 320.
So that's a USD 320 employee would be $200 a semester, $400 for the school year. A non-USD 320 employee would pay $150 in the month of August and then $200 per month, December through May.
Correct.
Is what I wrote.
That's 1 week at another childcare. Or not even most type childcare, so I don't see this as an issue.
And again, just to reiterate, this is a half day. It's not a full day.
Correct, but even then, there's not a lot of cost savings going to a half day at daycare.
Right.
It's pretty minimal.
I mean, the thing is we have students already in our program paying like this fee, and this is what they thought when they were coming into our program. Is there a way that, like new students coming in pay these fees, the ones that are already in the program, they get to grandfather in at the current fees until their time is up? You're talking like, what, 1 year of those fees for those students?
I mean, I think we can decide that as the board because we're talking about money.
I mean, I just feel like
It's 1 year.
it's 1 year, and I feel like it's a really disservice to the students that you already have to literally quadruple their prices. And I understand that it's still a good price, but essentially you have families that this is their plan. And now that some of them might not be able to afford it. I mean, you're talking 1 year for art. And then moving forward, they have the option because you have new students that, I get it, it's still a good price for preschool. But then they have that option to where essentially we don't have to kick somebody out that's currently in there now. That's my suggestion. I don't know what anybody else thinks. Is that an option? What do you
So,
guys think as the teachers, as the principal?
I mean, it only affects 2 of my students because
That's what I-
4 of my morning
Yeah.
kids
What's the
are,
number?
2 of them are teachers' kids.
because once they're 3 and they have an IUP, they're not paying anything.
Right.
These are role models only that are gonna be
So it's not
affected.
like it's not like we're losing a ton of money for kids that would be going to the 4-year-old program.
You said only 2 kids?
There's only.
We each have 4 to 5 kids that are peers. We like to just call them peers, but We each have 4 to 5 peers in our morning class that would be moving to the afternoon. I'm just speaking for me personally. I only have 4 and 2 of them are employees' kids. So the price, there's only going to be 2 kids that we would potentially get more money from in my class.
Yes.
But there would be 10, I don't know, it would maybe be 10 kids total that would be full service fees were going up.
But the only thing that I've been concerned about this whole time is we cannot afford to run that at a deficit and pull it out of general fund. I mean, I don't think. But if it's 2 kids, I guess, I don't know about that, but that's
2 kids
still.
in her classroom.
Could be 10 total.
It'd probably be 10 total, how many, you have 4 in the morning,
So 10 total,
10 total.
but we might be able to
which would be,
identify
that's
something.
significant.
15,000 in the 4-year program.
Yeah.
We have more slots in the afternoon that we could open up, so then you have a mixed fee model. Would be my only concern with that is then we have some kids that are paying full price because they're not grandfathered in. Some that are not the full price. So we do have, that is like Ms. Mike said, it's a bubble years. We actually have more slots in the afternoon that we could open up. Either at risk or with the peer spot.
All right, anybody else?
Is a bridging strategy an option, or we don't go to the full 2,000 this year, go to 1,000 or 1,200 for this first year? And do that across the board, and then go to the full 2,000 the next year?
I mean, I think it is. It's just getting back to what Cheryl was saying is that when Scott presented the information last month at this rate, we were not a fully self-funded program. So we're operating at a loss, just opening the doors to do this, we're operating at a loss. So it's more of a loss if we do bridge or we grandfather in. Just what risk do we want to take there with the loss?
I don't want to take any, but I mean, I'm just looking for some sort of.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, there's plenty of options. It's just a matter of, and maybe this is the year to potentially take less of a loss before we potentially acquire additional classrooms, going forward.
And another thought with that is, we will be charging a lot more for those other classes, right? Fees will continue to increase. Because that place cannot run at a loss, otherwise we have no money, right? Right now, we're able to operate with special ed. And then we'll also be pulling in childcare, so the fees for our other offsite, if they're with childcare, will definitely increase as well. We kind of saw this also as a way of gearing up for adding additional preschool classrooms,
What do we, so I might be wrong on this, but I believe an economic or income-based could potentially be one of the deals for at-risk, is that correct?
That's correct.
A family's income, so
They're at risk, they don't pay.
so that would be probably if they were free and or reduced, that would put them at risk, which means they wouldn't have a cost. So realistically, the people that we're talking about paying would have 0 at-risk characteristics and 0 IUPs, and they would have no financial benefit. I mean, I'm kind of at the point to.
I'm okay with the fees going to what Mr. Neal was okay with it, Mr. McKim was okay with it. Joe, but that's where I'm at.
With the fees going away, so.
No, the fees going to what is proposed.
I'm like, wow.
No.
No, I appreciate, I appreciate where you're at, but I think I don't think the number's there to go, so.
Okay.
nobody's got anything else, I would take a motion to approve the enrollment fees as presented.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 enrollment and meal fees as presented.
Second.
All in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 7-0. Thank you, guys. All right. Activity reports for the high school and the middle school. And if we have to cut you off to extend, we will. Just don't take offense to it, please.
But covered up the clock.
We can go quick. Who do you want first?
Let's do middle school.
All right. You can see the graphic, hopefully you've kind of looked over it, you may not be able to see everything, it stayed about the same. As last year, the only thing that has gone up are our GPAs, which is great. Down in the bottom left, it talks about 115 of our kids that are involved in extracurriculars have a 3.9 GPA or above, which is incredible. You know, you see all the numbers, but I kind of would just like to talk about what makes those numbers go. And one of the things is some of the decisions that the board members have agreed upon here in the past couple of years, few years. In 2020, 2021, we created health and performance class at the middle school. That's our weights class. It's had a positive impact on those numbers. 21, 22. We added a part-time secretary position. I'll talk about that here in a second. 22, 23, we created middle school FFA. 23, 24, we added middle school golf, girls wrestling, and scholars bowl. And so all those decisions that you guys have helped make has positively impacted those numbers that we have up there and the success that we've had. We have a lot of tremendous staff. We have a lot of tremendous coaches and sponsors. In our band, Susan and Chris, you know, one of the best band departments in the state. Coach Vanderpool coaches or teaches the health and performance class, and we have athletes in there. We have kids who aren't athletes, but it benefits these numbers that you see up here. Leah Euler is our FFA teacher. She's incredible. She's taken our ag classes and FFA to another level this year. If your kids have her, they're very fortunate. Coach Topliff, middle school girls basketball. They've won multiple NCKL championships, but in the past 3 years, they've raised almost $10,000 that have gone to charities. It's pretty incredible. And I mentioned our office staff, and I mentioned them because Diana helps with the finances, Kleiner. Tammy helps with all the numbers that you see there and all the cation numbers that we have to put in. And then Casey Meinhardt, she helps promote all these kids, whether it be Facebook or on the TV. So what I wanted to tell you, behind all these numbers, we have tremendous people at the middle school. And with your help passing these things, and with those staff members that don't care who gets the credit, as long as these kids have opportunities to succeed, that's all they worry about. And so we're very thankful to have the coaches that we do, the staff members that we do, and you helping out past some of those things that we've asked for in the past to keep those numbers going up. So those are our numbers. We feel really good about them. So if they keep growing, we'll probably have to ask for some bigger facilities. That's all I got. Questions?
You can fund it and we'll put your name on the side of it.
Man, I would love to. I would love to.
All right, high school.
And I used the same, I don't have the colorful graphic, Coach Mac does, I just did a typical PowerPoint, so if we can just kind of roll through each slide. So, you know, this year, obviously our overall total number of students, and we pulled this a few weeks ago, you know, we're at 486, which is down, you know, just a few from a year ago. So, you know, when it shows that we're down, it's based off of our total student population, and so forth. We got one student competes, but not enrolled. They compete as part of vacation, not public school participation. this year. We have another student who does, participates in 2 of our classes inside the brick and mortar building. That student is also in a sport, in a KSHA and in a non-KSHA activity. And then one student that only comes for one class per week for the social interaction piece. They are not involved in any of those, but we've got three students this year that participate not as a non-traditional inside traditional religious student. Next one. Total number of students involved in athletics, KSHA athletics, 268 students. 55.14% of our students, again, based on total numbers from last year, we were at 282. Many multi-sport, 287 physicals that were turned in, which again is down a little bit from last year with number of physicals turned into a next slide. 212 students, so even though we didn't have as many go out in sports, we did have an increase from 23-24 in students, the number of students involved in activities. We recognized a few of those students tonight, KSHA activities such as forensics, choir, band, Stuco, Scholars Bowl, those things we've all recognized throughout this year. Again, many multi-activity students, and you noticed that tonight during that recognition. It helped that Miss Stoplev had her forensic kids in the pink shirts, and they were involved in the band, they were part of band, they were part of choir aspects as well. So, and some of those are as well involved in the athletics as well. Total number of students involved in activities or clubs, the non-KSHA, so that'd be the FBLA that we recognized earlier, FFA, any of our other clubs, organizations. 220 students, 45.68%. So down a little bit from last year. Again, many of these students are involved in a number of different clubs and organizations. And I think there should be 1 or 2 more slides. So, you know, again, last year, 2 years ago, I think we were at 86 students that were not participating in anything. Last year, we were like 83. This year, we're at 79. Again, out of 486 students not involved in anything at this point. GPA stuff, which should be that next slide, what each semester, the end of completion of each semester, we fill this out for KSHA and to get distinguished certificates and outstanding certificates. So this hits our KSHA activities and sports, trying to decipher GPAs on kids or a specific club would take some time. So we will have this graphic for this semester in June for that. But you can see similar to what Coach Mack, I mean, it outlines our kids that are involved perform better in the classroom. There's motivation. We see it, our teachers see it, especially those kids that are single sport or single activity and their season runs up. A lot of times they get, there's nothing there for them to help keep them motivated for that classroom piece. So the more involved, the more opportunity to grow successfully. Any initial questions? Before you have to extend.
No, I appreciate it. I'm a firm believer that the activities, keeping kids engaged outside of the classroom, only helps out inside the classroom. I appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
Thanks, Phyllis.
Can we go ahead and extend now? 9:30, yes.
Mr. President, make a motion to extend the length of this meeting by 30 minutes, proposed for the BOE policy to 9:30 PM.
Second.
All in favor? 7-0, thank you. All right, special education change recommendations.
So we have two that, we bring to you. First is the change to our paraprofessional pay. And we have used challenging areas B and L. And about 40% of our paras have fit into that category this year. And, when we added that extra $2 per hour for those pays, we did so in hopes to attract more people into that line of work. We still struggle with the same 20 to 25 open para positions that we've had for the last 3-4 years. So we're gonna continue to try and press the right buttons to get that to work. So what we're proposing in the first one is to take that B and L pay away, so it drops everybody back to their own base pay. And then increasing all of them, so we drop 40% back and then we increase all paraprofessional returning employees by $2. So those that drop $2 will go right back up to that pay, but the other 60% will be raised. Ready to say that again? Yes, okay, so we have B and L paras, and I'll give you an example. Let's say their base pay is 15, the $2 increase gets to 17. So our proposal is to drop that back to their base pay of 15 and then increase all of the paras up to, it won't be increasing them all at 17, but in that example, they'd increase right back to 17. So returning paras, we'd be giving a $2 pay raise. But if those paras already had the B and L pay, they would not be getting a $2 raise, they would just stay where they are. And then we would, when negotiations work through, we would potentially raise them.
So they would be starting the school year at the same pay that they were the previous year.
But yes, because they were getting a challenging pay already.
Okay.
Mhm. So they wouldn't be losing anything.
Right.
They just wouldn't get as much as, some of the others that weren't getting that challenging pay would be increasing theirs. And then we would go through negotiations and hopefully be able to raise them. We also would, as a part of that, we would want to raise the starting salary for paraprofessionals up $1.75. So if they're returning, they're getting a $2 bump or staying where they are. But new people are hired just a little bit under that bond, just a little under.
But with negotiations, that could change.
Right, it could go up. Most likely will go up a little bit for all of them.
Okay.
But for some, that would be, cost is about $120,000 across the district. And we pay about 50% of that here. We pay about 50% of the specials, so that's about $60,000 for us. That would be part of the assessment that we are currently paying.
Is this a change that's happening right now or next?
It would be for the 25-26 school year. Erica, shake your head if I'm wrong.
You're good.
Okay.
We will have some paras that will be considered critical needs paras that will they'll have a contract with the co-op and they will get an increase, but we're shifting that challenging duty label, taking away the para L&B, and students, certain critical needs will qualify a para for getting an additional amount of pay, but that'll be a contract that will be between them and the co-op. And that will help us be able to really take that down to the true critical needs as opposed to it getting out of hand like it did right now with having 40% of our paras, if that makes sense.
So these pairs that would be the critical needs, do they have any additional training to be a critical needs para, or is that something the school provides?
It used to be that they were required to get the NCI training to be able to get that extra amount, especially if they were considered a para B, so they were serving students that were more challenging under that B code. But because that's the population that we work with, we are trying to move away from and kind of shift the mindset, but also recognize that the idea behind critical needs paras that we do recognize that there might be some situations that they do need special training, in which case we would give them that. Usually it's for things like toileting, feeding, really extreme behavior needs, and those things would all require some level of more specialized training. Although I would say that we never do an amazing job of giving our paras all of the training that they need. I think that's always an area we can.
And you'd answered my question, it's been a few months ago, but we're quite short on paras, right?
Very short.
And wasn't there some sort of limit where if we get too low on paras? There's some sort of, I don't remember y'all's lingo, but they could put us in kind of a bad spot.
Right.
Right.
Because we're not meeting the services that are on the student's IEP. We have to,
So this is like looking at recruitment and retention.
right.
Many
That's
talks.
what our,
It sounds like we're going backwards, but this is actually a good thing. I just wanna, I'm saying that in a public forum because it sounds like we're going backwards and we're taking money away, but this is actually a good thing.
Right.
and everyone should still see an increase. And except for, I always say this, in my 25 years in education, there were a few years where we were not as teachers able to negotiate a pay raise because the money just was not there.
Right.
So if you come to a year where teachers don't negotiate a pay raise, my best guess is we're probably not gonna be able to get our classified staff a pay raise. But most years, we negotiate a pay raise for teachers and that will usually then be applied also to classified. So we would still be increasing, but it wouldn't be at the same rate as getting a $2 an hour increase, if that makes sense. So,
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they said that incoming new employees for next year would it be $1.75 above what it is right now.
Starting pay,
$4.75 or $1?
$1.75.
$1.75. Almost.
Yeah.
$40,000 a year.
Any questions on that one?
Second part is just simply, we lost a school psych. We had a resignation, a retirement in the psych world, and so we're looking for one of those. But, the applications have not come in, and so we're asking to add a position, which would be a school psychologist paraprofessional, which would allow us to kind of bridge the gap. If we're able to find a school psych, that's the direction we're going. But we have to have this position added so that if we can't find that, then we're gonna move this direction and try and help the school psychs that are still here. So we still have two, normally we have three, but that would make us with two, and this would help in there, in that transition. So that's the second one, is just adding school psych paraprofessional position.
Mr. President, oh, the discussion, sorry.
Sure.
Sure.
Any discussion?
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. President, make a motion to approve the pay change for paraprofessionals and to add a school psych paraprofessional position.
Second.
All in favor? $7.
Sorry.
All right. Discuss and approve using Wayfinder as the middle school and high school curriculum, SEL.
So you had the memo, the quote, the conversation, sent you some questions and answers. You know, obviously with the SEL community or SEL conversation is always difficult. We currently have an SEL program at our middle school and high school called Habitudes. You have a middle school, or high school kid, you may have heard of that. You may not. It depends on what they bring home to you. But this is I say a different direction, it's a different program. And we've had a number of folks that have worked throughout the year looking at this curriculum, bring it to their individual building leadership teams, the district leadership team. I'll bring it to you. There may be questions around SEL, there always are. And so I'm gonna try not to talk too much, but I'll answer questions if you have them. And if we don't know the answer, we'll tell you that and see if we can get it for you.
Excuse me, Ron, can I just ask you a quick one? What is SEL?
Social emotional learning.
Thank you.
So I think the biggest thing that concerns people when we start talking about social emotional learning is the the DEI, the wokeness, those type of things that are out there. I don't really have a question, but if you could comment on some of the things that went through and got looked into in improving this, or Scott, love to hear about that.
So I mean, we aren't looking specifically at, diversity, inclusion and equity conversations. Really, you're looking at the whole picture of what this provides our students for, the ability to get along with others, the time management. I mean, I could go into the most important parts of an SEL curriculum have nothing to do with values and everything to do with opportunities that make them more successful when they walk out of our doors. And back to when Dr. Watson at ASD went around and talked to thousands of employers around the state of Kansas, he called these soft skills. And right, and so these are your soft skills, the ability to shake a hand, look someone in the eye when you're conversing with them. Because it's considered SEL curriculum, some of the small parts of what could possibly be in there get a lot of attention, but I don't think it's necessarily the parts that we've focused on. So these nice young ladies here are willing to maybe answer better than I. They've done a lot more work with this, so thank you.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what was shared. Am I able to like pull stuff up there or no?
No.
Just kidding. So backing up, our teachers have been using Habitudes at the middle school level for the past, oh gosh, starting during COVID, prior to COVID. And it started, sixth all the way through. It is met its lifespan. Our students are they've been hearing it over and over and over from sixth grade on. And so we are kind of looking at a new program, and it's called Wayfinder. It is broken up into core skills, 6 core skills: purpose, self-awareness, adaptability, empathy, collaboration, and agency, which all have skills like Mr. McKim was saying, soft skills, people skills. How do we work with others? How do we learn about ourselves? How do we use that to then grow in our abilities and what we want to essentially do post high school? The thing about Wayfinder that was really a selling feature for myself is that it is individualized for the students. It is a tiered MTSS model. It has assessments that students can do on a periodic basis based on the lessons that they've been taught. And so we can get a snapshot of what lessons are they getting, what lessons have they hit that they're learning from, what lessons then can we then break down for small groups, what kids do we need to see individually, and just kind of reintroduce some of those key areas. Additionally, what I really liked about it is that,
We haven't had dinner yet.
It focused with that, it also ties into their IPS because it talks about their purpose, and it really narrows down the things that they feel like are their strengths, and they can use that to then find their passion. So,
yeah, I think your questions about DEI and things like that are valid questions when you're talking about SEL in a school system, especially as things grow and change. What we can do on our end is make sure that the lessons that we're providing to students meet all the guidelines of all the SEL that we've done since we started SEL in schools, and making sure that we're providing students only with the things that we're allowed to provide them. I think to look too deeply into how it could be spun in a certain way would really inhibit our ability to do social emotional learning, which the state of Kansas says we have to do it. So we just have to be really careful and purposeful about how we do that. And we have definitely seen growth with our students and so I think Habitudes was a very good learning platform for the time that it served us. And it's just time to do something that's a little bit different. What's also nice about Wayfinder is that it has a catalog of resources that teachers will also be able to use in the classroom. So let's say they have a class that's going to take a really important exam. That teacher could go and look up test anxiety, and it will come up with a catalog of 1 minute to 60-minute lessons that they can choose from to do with their class. It could be a video that they watch, it could be an activity that they do, it could be a discussion question. So this could really be integrated into a lot of things that our schools do, not just the SEL that we do during our advisory time or pride time. So it'd be carried out throughout the school day, which I know is a really big thing at the high school that we want to do, is not only do it on our Monday lesson day, but how can teachers incorporate the theme or the idea that we're trying to push all throughout, just like they did in elementary school? Because in elementary school, you know, it's like responsibility week, right? And they carried on through the whole school day and they walk away with this feeling of a knowledge and responsibility and they want to show it. I think bringing that to the high school and middle school levels could really help us to hone in on these lifelong skills that kids can gain from this platform. I guess on the middle school side, it does from second step, it does do a really good job at kind of sliding us into the Wayfinder. It's a new program for us. So what it does is it takes all of those foundational skills and it puts them into practice at the middle school level. It brings like a deeper understanding of those skills, and then we're practicing them in real time and also having time to collaborate, talk as a class about those situations. And so it's bringing conversation within the classroom, not just the lesson being taught. So one other thing that we really like about this is it's a 5-minute prep time for teachers. Everything they need is included in that lesson. Our goal will be to put out a year-long calendar that will give teachers an idea of where they're headed and what those lessons look like. But if a substitute came in or if a teacher's covering a class, they would need about 5 minutes to wrap their heads around what it's going to be, and then the lesson would take them through those steps. Do you have any questions we can answer specifically?
Second step is what we use K-5, just to kind of tie that in. So K-5, that's what you use second step wise, and then it would slide into the Wayfinder. We also, and I'm thinking of the middle school, they talk in their newsletter about what's coming up. So if family was not comfortable with those conversations, they could opt out of those.
And Wayfinder has a letter for us to send.
Because I'm not an educator and where I work, we use a lot of acronyms and abbreviations. What is IPS for you guys? Because it's totally different from me at work.
Yeah, so all of our students have an individual plan of study. So
Okay.
basically at the high school level, that is, you know, what is their motivation and where are they going?
I have to ask that a lot because
You're good.
where I work, there's a lot
Yes,
of
absolutely.
three-letter
I'm
acronyms.
I'm glad you asked. We throw away around these acronyms in the education world without even thinking about it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I don't, Scott, thank you for putting out the
Yeah.
information you collected off of Cheryl's question. It was great. That answered all my questions. Thank you.
I had a lot earlier, but I found out what I. Good.
Good, good.
Some people have a lot of respect for, and a lot more experience than me.
This is awesome. I'm sorry.
I will say that there was a lot of thought and research put into this program and different programs that we were looking at. It was through Diesel. We would bring this back to our teams in the building. I know at the middle school, we also had teachers break out into groups. Mr. Kuchar had each group kind of research these different SEL programs, and then we all discussed them and we brought them back to Diesel. So there was a lot of discussions and bringing those teachers in because they will be the ones teaching the classroom. So behavior, social, emotional learning.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I know that.
I know without thinking, but then I was listening for
I
it.
passed that part of the class earlier. I remember now. Is this one Rock Creek uses also?
It is, yeah. And they had very good things to say about it, so that's what started our investigation.
Yeah, we'll ask some parents about it, just as a parent, I don't even heard of it, it's like, it's probably good.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve Wayfinder as the Wamego Middle School and Wamego High School curriculum for SEL.
Second.
All in favor? 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
So item 16 is just the first read. I'd ask for you to go through and look at those, but this is something we do every year with the handbooks. So slight changes, but we will hopefully get those done next meeting.
When you look at those, like, if there's only date changes, I put that in parentheses, so that means
Thank you for that.
nothing was changed, only dates.
That helped a lot, thank you.
And then the other part is, like, it tells, like, changes are highlighted and struck through, so that's, you just look for those highlights or look for the red. That way you know exactly what was changed. And then once it's voted in, we just go through and make those changes and, go through.
I can't, there was one of them I should have read that hadn't got rid of you yet, still had you unstruck you yet.
I was pretty sure that most of the staff wanted me gone anyway, so they, that was their first go, was get his butt out the door.
So we'll hit those up next month. CERT plan presentation and approval.
Yeah, really just the presentation is through me. This is something that the state legislature passed, so this is a state law that says every school district has to have a plan in place. You've seen the plan for probably the last 3 or 4 weeks on the weekly recap. Our nurses, Shay Johnson and Leah Sheldon, put that together. They put the teams together. We have to submit it in July, but KSB's recommendation was that all the boards approve those. So I guess any questions on those plans? You guys have seen them for a little while.
Take a motion to
Need a
approve.
motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the cardiac emergency response plans for the USD 320 school district.
Second.
All in favor? 7-0. Superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report, principal search. Mrs. Long, Mr. Nelson, and Mrs. Meyer are the 3 board members that are serving. We're doing that May 16th. So, Mr. Meyer, since I'm scratched off the list, Mr. Meyer will be running this. So it's really important that we do it one day for a couple reasons. One, we're getting towards the end of the year and finding 3 days is really hard. But we could find one, and so we're putting them in the wheel. And so we have an opportunity for them to talk with the formal interview team. So that'll be what I would at least think of it. Oh, here's the interview process. We also think it's important that they talk with students, that they meet with our admin team to get a tour of the building. They will be quizzed on that later because that tour of that building, you can get lost pretty easily. And then we have some community members that are coming in to meet with them as well. So we put them in that circle. It'll be a long day for them. But we know that the role of a building principal is never easy. And so they should get used to the long day. If they can't handle that, then they're probably not the person for it. And the 3 that we haven't expressed any concerns about that. So we hope to have something early next week, and it's probably a situation where we're gonna ask for potentially a meeting, a special meeting to make that approval. Because I don't know that we want to wait all the way until June 9th to make that. So when Mr. Meyer has basically a yes in hand, we'll be asking for some type of approval or some type of meeting so that we can go into the process.
Okay. Calendar change?
Calendar change, you have them in your packet. The 2 dates you want to look at, September 22nd, which has changed, that was purple. And we made it green. That is count day from the state. And a number of school districts like me messed that up and didn't catch it as count day. And so they had it as either a day off or a PLC day. And the state came back and said, I'd change that. So that's why I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
Usually they just kick it to the 23rd, so I'm not sure why this year was different, but they literally came out and said to all superintendents, I'd get that changed if I were you. So we had some concerns because of our professional development we had planned that day, the folks that we work with for letters, hopefully asset builders, so some of those things we planned. They have said we can do it on the 12th. And so we don't normally do Friday PD, but in talking with admins, we think we're fine to do it on the 12th. So we'll give that a try. For next school year. The other alternatives are in the middle of the week. Not really optimal. So.
That's the only change on the whole thing?
Yep.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the change in the 2025-2026 school calendar as presented.
All in favor? 7-0.
While Kayla's pulling up the building needs assessment, I'm going to skip to the fourth one, which is the activities working group. Right now, we formed this in January. Really, we're looking at, we have some activities where our numbers positively, and I say positively, we have plenty in those sports, but they're kind of outnumbering our space, basically. So the activity working group, we're going to start that up and meet here soon, hopefully to discuss the sports or the activities that are causing those pinch points is what I would refer to them as. For example, 40 some high school boys out for golf is probably more than the golf course can handle, and really, because only 6 can go to a meet. You know, that'd be 6+ teams, and that's more than we can really handle. So the other interesting thing that I learned from our former superintendent is we have had tryouts in the past. So this is not new. I didn't know that, but we have had tryouts in sports in the past. So might not be as big a lift as I thought it would have had to have been in our community. But anyway, we're going to try and put those together on the group that have the listed there.
Brian and Cheryl.
Yes.
And I guess I would request that maybe I not be on that since I'm not gonna be after December, so. If somebody would like to switch out, if that's okay with you, Mike.
Yeah.
Jolene left, put her on her.
It is. All right. I'll let her know. Shoot her a text. All right, buildings needs assessment.
Again, this is just, and I'll send this to you tomorrow, but this is really just something to look at. So each of our buildings, you can see across the bottom has to fill this out. So they've done their work. So there's a central needs assessment, there's a west needs assessment, WMS and WHS. So we take all that information. And then the fifth one to the right there, BOE state assessment review. So this is the part that the board has to approve every year. And they have to use this to build their budget or to approve their budget. So that's part of the process. We talked about it in May. What I have done in the past and what the board has asked me to do is give them some ideas of what we should put in here. And then usually present that to you in June. Then you look at it again in July and usually say, yes, that's what we want in there. And then submit it and we use that for the budget. So I guess that would be is something similar wanted in there? Do you want some ideas of what I might consider to have in there? Okay, I will tell you this. State assessments for this year don't come out till August. So I'm not sure, we don't get our results back till August or September. So it's gonna be probably based on what we did previously. So I don't anticipate a lot of change, but we'll do our best we can to give you some ideas. Okay, that's.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
All right, so we didn't have anything from open forum. I apologize, I gotta ask again because I wrote it on my other note when we were doing interview stuff, but graduation attendance. Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
yes, you're gonna be there.
Can't wait.
All right. And
No
no,
baseball.
Yes.
yes,
Be at my niece's graduation.
no. All right, so you've got the three ladies and myself,
Okay,
four of us.
I would recommend, you guys know where to park.
Yeah, we're gonna park. Yeah, we're not gonna say where we're gonna park. 'Cause we got a secret place to park. If you need to know where that is. let me know.
I'll be there with the cones where I normally am, so if you wanna,
Use our.
What time do you want us there?
I think it usually, it starts at 2, so 1:30 is usually a good time. We'll have the list of students, and so you guys wanna meet, and kind of go through and, figure out who you'd like to, hand out things, diplomas to. We do have a concession stand that's gonna be open this year. So they can buy water,
There we go.
right?
Let's go.
So it's gonna be a little warmer, and there's a 34% chance of rain. But
Well, that's exactly where I was gonna go. What time are we gonna make the weather call? So we know.
As the plan is noon on Friday,
Noon on Friday.
because that will give our maintenance people time.
Okay.
Get it moved, might make the wrong call, might be.
Yeah,
but That's when I'm going.
And I would say this, the lovely thing about Kansas is you never know what the weather's gonna be. So it'll usually change in an hour. So, you know, if it's gonna hit, we think it's gonna be a 2 o'clock storm, maybe kick it an hour or two. That's the other thing nice about a turf field, it's ready to go pretty quickly after. As long as people bring a towel to sit in the bleachers with. So,
Okay.
we'll try to be outside as best we can.
Oh, thank you. All right. So for, four of us, Brian, myself, Jolene and Cheryl, if you're going to run again, you have until June 2nd at noon
Yes.
to fill out your paperwork at the county office in Westmoreland.
Pay your $20.
And pay your, 20 or $40, whatever it is.
Check today, it's 20.
20.
20?
It's 20.
It's 20. All right. Also printed off, there is a proposed, meeting for next school year.
It has 2026 says 2025.
Yeah, I'm writing it down right now. So it's 2025 and 2026.
Oh.
Has this, the Feast of Carols, I think messes us up every year. Is that, do we know that date yet?
Yes, so I met with Fine Arts. Normally Tuesdays are basketball nights.
Yeah.
And this next year we lost that Tuesday game. We found an opponent. But the date that works for them is Monday. So Feast of Carols will be Tuesday, December 9th, with us playing, which allows you guys to have your normal board meeting.
Yeah.
Changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
She opened up with.
Okay.
Unless it's all gonna come out.
that's a.
No, so
that's a
probably,
Tradition that's been whacked out then. Wow.
It's usually Monday.
Yes, always been.
Yeah.
so that'll work out great. If you two mainly, I mean, it's activities and us and stuff going on, but if you guys could, have you guys got to see this yet, proposed schedule at all? For the activities?
No.
No? All right.
No, we'll get to them, see what their conflicts are.
Yeah, just,
Okay.
yeah, if you guys could look at that for what's already published, and then, because as soon as the meeting gets done, I'm gonna send, I think this will get approved, but I'm gonna send a text to Britton and, Mr. Meyer, and Britton will probably be here on the 21st of July. Because that's the last part of the KASB service is, initial superintendent, goal and expectation setting stuff. So we'll have our normal meeting on July 14th, and then the next week, July 21st, we'll have a special meeting to do that with KASB. But we'll approve it next month. But take that, if you guys got things that we need to be aware about, because we can shift it. It's just a little bit tougher whenever we go.
Like we prefer to shift it before.
Yeah,
That's what
before
you-
we approve it, yeah.
Yeah, so also check your own schedules and see what's going on.
And then the only thing I didn't see on here was a tour. Oh, no, it is right there, building tour, sorry, got it. August 18th. Okay.
Which is board policy, that you have a tour before the start of school.
Yeah.
We should have the secure entrances done, so that would be a good part of the tour.
Good. Perfect.
If we don't have it done August first, there might be somebody back there that's, two people back there that'll be not happy campers.
I would assume that is correct statement.
Yes.
All right, anybody have anything else? Before we extend again and go into that exec?
So.
No, all right, so let's go ahead and extend quick till 10.
Mr. President, I make a motion to extend the length of this meeting for an additional 30 minutes for BOE policy to 10 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Yeah, you raise your hand, that's right, 7-0. Trying to flake out on it. All right, and then, let's do a quick 5, and then we'll go into executive session for a couple items.
I needed that 5 minute break. 10 minutes ago.
I need
This needs
Saying.
to be done. It's like, you know, the Royals can't win every game. Just get a bad one and get smoked like.
Well, no, I'm.
Like from the county or?
Yeah, because I wanna go and give it to
Forget about it. All right.
Talk to one,
I-
talk to.
I ain't got worried about
I know.
stuff.
I know, but I don't like that.
I think
Basic
Rob thought
thought
he had one.
Yeah.
That's all right. It's all good.
I could feel the staff and I was like, okay.
I knew they were going to.
I'm like, I'm gonna read the room, I can feel it.
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's probably not it. Take her husband is an activity guy. You better put me on there. So on your notes, it's not Cheryl, it'll just be me. All right,
Okay.
yeah,
Maybe four of you.
yeah. So yeah,
Darn,
stretch
I'm
showing.
sad.
Mhm. You're lucky. Your husband answered the phone call when I called him today, so I'll take you off and put it on.
Mr. President,
Yes?
I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss negotiations. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Under the KOMA exception to protect the public interest in negotiating a fair and equitable contract, to invite the superintendent into exec and to resume the open meeting
At 9:40.
at 9:40 PM.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Oh, sorry, man. I'm just.
Same, I'm so tired, and I have to go home and make a couple desserts.
For what?
For tomorrow, or. Actually, I'm gonna do something.
until 59.
It won't be me, I can't talk.
Motion, Ryan, to go into
Yeah, for
59.
personnel.
Yeah.
Mr. President, I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss employee personnel using the non-elected personnel exception under KOMA. Provide the superintendent into executive session and to resume the open meeting of the board meeting at 9:59.
Second.
All in favor? 7-0.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve 9 days of work in May and June for Mr. Josh Meyer to be paid at his 2025-2026 daily rate.
Second. All in favor?
I got it.
Okay, 7-0.
All right, you ready for the next?
Yep.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve following winter high school athletic head coach contract renewals for the 2025-2026 school year. Spirit, Aubrey Brown, girls basketball, Brian McIntosh, boys basketball, Steve Fritz.
Second.
All in favor? 7-0. Looking to adjourn.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? 7-0.
What? I don't know when I help. Is that this week to help with the drinks or?
Oh, yeah.